Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. Yeah, a sad day. The DS-801 finally died. So I've sold this already actually. There's a couple of things I want to cover in this video. Obviously, you know, the title of the video is to look at the new product, but it's decommissioning of this old station. So you can see I left it in pieces here. The person I'm selling this to, I'll take a photo of the PCB there and just show him where the wires go to. You can measure one of these. It's just, you know, it's a coil. That's all it is. It's a coil inside, you know, and obviously it's a short circuit. Well, almost a short circuit. So, you know, your voltage goes through it, and because it's almost a short circuit, it heats up. It results in a massive amount of heat dissipated. You know, and that obviously goes down the shaft of the iron there. Yeah, so if I measure that, it's like 24 ohms or 26 ohms or something, somewhere around that. There were a few bits here from, I think they came from Ali actually, WSP80. I accidentally left those in the adverts, so I thought I'd better include them anyway. Those sold separately. But yeah, there's all the bits and pieces here. There's the main part of the shaft there. There's part of where the thermocouple went in. It was longer actually, it came out about that length, but it got mangled trying to pull it out. It was well and truly welded into there. It was really hard to get it out. I had to use mole grips, and the end of it was just all mangled, so I cut it off at that point. You can see the switch. That was the original reason I took it to pieces. The switch stopped working, it was intermittent, and one of the wires had broken off. It was just barely making a connection. Yeah, so when I pulled it apart, that was soldered on there like that, but it was super fiddly to get to pieces. Now, in retrospect, if I'd released the grommet at the back here first and then pulled the whole thing out and desoldered the wires at that point, I probably wouldn't have done any damage. But I was like messing around trying to pull the thing apart and stuff after I desoldered these here, and the thermocouple was coming through the housing here, and the wire just broke off the thermocouple. That's the problem. And the spot welded on. You know, you can't just solder the wire back on, the spot welded on. I could have welded it back on, but the thermocouple had disintegrated. We had a short. You know, the actual metal windings that went around that metal rod there were shorted. So, and that actually, I think that's been going on for a long time actually, because the last time I replaced this element, it's not that old this, it's only a few years old this. Last time I replaced this element, I had a similar difficulty getting it out and stuff, and at that point when I reassembled it, I found that the temperature characteristics of this station were never quite the same. You can see, you know, I've had it set to 400 degrees here pretty much all the time, and I'm sure it only reaches somewhat like 330, 340. It's not going up to the full range, and I think that was because of that winding, you know, shorting near the end. It was shorter than it should have been in length, or something along those lines. That, you know, so that's one of the problems there. The other reason I've sold this is there's a number of issues. I'll go around them. You can see here these glass tubes, you know, for the vacuum. Can you see? You might not be able to see. We've got a little dink there, a little nick in the glass. The same thing there. This always happens to these. More often than not, they'll just crack and shatter. You know, if you drop it, they'll break. But with expansion and removal, you know, expansion cooling cycles, you know, hundreds and hundreds of cycles, you start to get chips and cracks and things if you're not careful. So I had to, you know, when I was using this, I had to use like a mineral wool as a filter, and I had to squeeze it just on the very edge there, you know, out the edge, so to block the hole. So yeah, both of those have got issues. The tip, the thing here where the tip goes into, it's full of solder at the moment. Normally that would be a completely empty hole there, but yeah, it's got solder in it. A number of years ago this broke, the bit broke off, and the thread was still stuck in there. And a good friend of mine, Albert Mather, I don't know whether he's still with us because he was quite old back when I knew him actually. He's, you know, 65-ish. And that was like 25 plus years ago. He took this away for me because he was an engineer. He had loads of milling machines, and he could make anything. He could fabricate anything out of metal or wood or plastic or whatever. And he drilled it. You know, he tapped and die. He did it. Used a tap and die kit and drilled the thing out and redid it. But at that point, the bits would never fit in very well. You know, they only went in to, if I show you, about that distance there. They should have gone like that originally, but they only ever went back like that. But we still had a good vacuum. That's the other thing. The vacuum on here was never 100% either. A number of years ago, 25 years ago, the pump stopped working, and I disassembled this, and it's like inside, it's like a piece of graphite that spins around on a motor, and in that graphite there are little slots 3, I think, there might be 5, I can't remember, 3 slots, you know, equidistant around the thing. And in those little slots there's another piece of graphite, and all that happens is the little piece of graphite is slid out through centrifugal force of it spinning, you know. So if you imagine, like, you've got this circular thing with little slots in it, 3 slots, and each slot you've got this piece of graphite, and it slides outwards, and on the outer ring there, you know, around that graphite, it's just a smooth spherical edge, and it's airtight. You know, you stick a seal on top and it's airtight. So those 3 blades swinging round, one side you've got a hole, you know, the little hole there for air to be sucked in, the other side's got the air for the airflow for the other direction, and it just pulls the air around. That's how it works. You know, this motor spins, and the little blade, 3 blades scraping across a sealed edge there, suck the air in. So I had to disassemble and reassemble that and clean up the blades. If I remember rightly, I swapped them around. I rotated them because they were quite worn, and that got it working. But at that point, we only ever had about, I don't know, 0.3, maybe 0.4 on the suction. I'm sure originally it went a bit further round here, but the suction was still very good. You could still use this. I've used this for the last 15 years or 20 years that way. So other things, this connector here has driven me nuts over the years. I spent some time taking it apart and having a look at it. I was convinced it was the contacts on the, you know, the solder points on the back, or the wires or something, or even this here. And I couldn't get anywhere with it. What I do know, after having disassembled this, I didn't show it, but when I was having the problems trying to get this working, one of the things I did is I trimmed an inch or 2 off there and rewired it. And the wire has gone like black. You know, you try and solder it, you can't get a solder joint on there, even with flux. I think the wire is awful. So I suspect what's gone on with this, I think it's the wire at this end, actually, here. And also these contacts, no matter how much you clean them up, it was just flaky as hell. What I'd have to do is plug it in and rotate it a few times, and then eventually it will start to work. So yeah, there's that. And then obviously you can see the hose in here, it's yellowed and it's gone a bit, you know, it's probably alright, it's still in one piece, but I would imagine that's not going to last much longer. And it needed a new cleaning tool, because you can see you get a plastic cleaning tool with these, and you pull the back off and you've got, well, you're supposed to have 4 of these different sizes, and you can see that 3rd one there has broken off, and that's the one that I would use the most really for cleaning out the finest bits there. So yeah, even the, you know, cleaning tool is broken. I think other than that, you know, cosmetically it's alright. I've removed my name from there, but yeah, Chris Support Technician. This is really nice. I should have kept this really, but yeah, I've sold it as it is. Someone might be able to restore it. I suspect if someone could fudge a thermocouple, you know, into here, then they could get it working. You might have to do a mod to the PCB depending on the thermocouple, because it's not going to be exactly the same as the thermocouple that originally shipped with it, but you could do. And you can see the fuse holder seems to be missing there. I don't know whether someone's internally abridged that previously, I'm not sure. But yeah, so it's end of an era, kind of out with the old, in with the new. But it has served me well. I purchased this from the company I left 25 plus, maybe 30 years ago, for £100, which was a bargain back then. But that was based on the fact that, you know, it had some issues. It'd been, you know, the thing had been drilled out here, the bits didn't fit very well, etc. So for the 30 years roughly I've owned this, yeah, it's had an awful lot of use really, especially since I started doing all the retro gaming stuff on YouTube. Nearly everything on my channel, this has you know, been used for. Not all stuff, there's been lots of things where I've desoldered manually chips and stuff, but it's been used an awful lot. So yeah, I will miss the old girl. So before we look at the new station I've got, one thing I will say that I will really miss about this, the main feature, is the fact it's handheld. You know, you hold the thing here, you've got the button on the side, you know, and this just protrudes out here like this, and you know, your bit is here. So it's super ergonomically, you know, easy to use. And you'll see what I mean in a minute, but this other thing I've got is like a gun, you know, so you've got to hold it a distance above what you're trying to desolder. So it's nowhere near as ergonomic as something like this. Weller are renowned for being, you know, super reliable systems, you know, and this just lasted so long. And prior to, you know, it having a new element, the one before that, I think it lasted about 8 years or something from being on, you know, 5 days a week, left on for, you know, I don't know, 10 hours a day. Sometimes left on overnight accidentally. It's amazing how resilient Weller stuff is actually. You pay for what you get. So at the end of the day, the money I've used from their sale of this is almost paid for the replacement that you'll see in a sec. And and I figure, yeah, it's not going to be anywhere near as reliable as the Weller, but to be honest, back when this was made, there was nothing else like it. There was a little in the way of competition. You know, desoldering stations would cost you, you know, £500, £600, £700, £800, £1,000 or more back then. And like I said, there wasn't a massive amount of them around, whereas now you've just got loads of stuff coming from China and stuff, and it's really driving, increasing the demand, the supply and demand. There's loads of these desoldering stations now that are affordable for hobbyists and enthusiasts and stuff, like myself, really. So let's open the new one. Now, it's not mega expensive, quite the contrary actually. It's I think it cost me about £75, this. Yeah, ZD-915, and it's quite cloned this. What I mean by that is there's a number of different brands and things you'll see, but typically it looks the same, it's the same model. And I think actually this is a clone of a legit make and model. Is it Duratool? I think Duratool do one that's pretty much exactly the same. I think the bits are interchangeable and the filters, and you know, this is perhaps a clone of the Duratool, I'm not sure. But yeah, for £75, you know, you get what you pay for at the end of the day. It's not going to be super reliable compared to something like a Weller, but it's so much cheaper than, you know, a Weller. For example, just trying to find an element could set you back 50 quid now if you can find one for a Weller. And as I say, there were numerous problems with that Weller. Yeah, it doesn't look very thin, that. Is that 0.8? I'm not sure. Because I think they're 3 different size bits, aren't there? Yeah, we've got some bits there, look, and some spare filters. I've ordered some new filters as well for this. So we've got the support bracket thingy that sits on the side that just holds the nozzle, I think. Yeah, so that is super flimsy. I mean, look at that rubber that's come off there already, that. Just in transit. Awful. Yeah, the quality is not great, but as I say, you get what you pay for at the end of the day. I just want something just to do the job that's going to be cheap to maintain moving forward, or cheap to replace. You know, that's the other thing. I could always, if this packs in, let's say the element packs in this in 2 or 3 years, I could just swap it out for something else, or buy a replacement element for probably not a lot, I would think. That will not go in there, will it? Yeah, that is just terrible. Can you see that? It won't go on there. It's like it's glued at this side or something, to the point where I can't move the thing. Yeah, that's terrible. Anyway, it appears it just slots into there like that and free floats, and I guess that goes there like that. So yeah, it's nowhere near as good as the Weller was, that. And then you've got the desoldering tool here. So yeah, that button's nice and easy to click, but yeah, again, it's very plasticky. It's very cheap, but hopefully it should do the job. What does this do? Does this release the... Oh, there you go, yeah. So you pull that catch down there, it releases this back, and then I really should be reading the instructions before I try and break this. The tube should come out somehow, I'm not sure. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to break it. Let's just see if we can push that back in. Yeah, that's it. So I'll connect it all up and we'll switch it on. So yeah, that's not too bad. The cable feels pretty good actually. It's a bit rubbery, but it feels relatively good quality. So a connector can only go in one way. You can see it's keyed there. And then we can screw it on. Yeah, that doesn't feel so great actually, that screw connection, but there you go, it's alright, it's made a tight fit now. So you can see you've got a filter in there in the pump, and obviously there's a filter in here as well, so you swap out this one on a fairly regular basis. And that was just like a second filter to you know, minimise the risk of getting flux and stuff into the pump inside. So here's the cap that goes over that. Now I've actually still got all the mineral wool actually that is used as a filter, so I may just double up. The other thing is I could make my own filters out of that mineral wool by compressing it into discs like that. That's possible as well. So this plastic cap, just like the Weller, just screws on there like that, and then your air hose, you know, for your vacuum, just plugs onto there. Simple as that, like that. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, as I said earlier, trying to use it that way, because with the Weller, like I say, you much lower down, your hand is right down here kind of thing with your finger on the button, with the nozzle sort of almost at the same height as your hands. It's super easy to work on things with this. I've got to be right above it in order to desolder. So let's plug the mains lead in and switch it on. So yeah, what I like about this actually is you've got a fan internally. The Weller didn't have anything like that, and obviously the pump only runs at the point when you press the button. So this is set at the moment, as you can see, to 160 degrees. Is it? It says temp. Oh yeah, the temp's just rising there. So that's the actual temperature it's measuring with a thermocouple from the tip there. So it's going to take some time to heat up. So is that fast or slow? I would say that's slow actually compared to the Weller. You'd only need the Weller to be on for a minute maybe to get up to about 350. I don't know, maybe that'll be alright. It seems to be speeding up a bit now. So yeah, 160, let's just increase that. Let's go to about 320. So you've got centigrade and Fahrenheit switch there as well. I'll just leave it on C. So can you see the solder on the end of there? You know, these are covered with I don't know, some sort of protective thing to stop it from oxidising, and a little bit of solder on the end as well. So you'll typically get fumes and stuff coming off this when it first heats up. It's got nothing to do with it being a cheap tool or something like that. They'll do it. Even brand new Weller tips do that. Although they don't always put solder over the end there actually. I don't remember seeing a Weller one like that, but you still get, yeah, you can see it bubble there. I don't know if you saw that. The end of it bubbled up there. So as soon as we get the temperature, well, we're at temperature now, 320, I'll press the button. Oh yes. I'm not sure that's working as it should do actually, because I don't see a hole on the tip. I don't know if you can see that. It looks like there's a solid thing there. So anyway, let's get some solder and flux onto a connection and try and desolder something. So I guess the first thing I need to try and do here is maybe try and unblock it. Yeah, and that's not unblocking. Well, as I say, you get what you pay for. I'm having to wait for this to cool down now so that I can remove the tip. And what I'm going to try and do is, I'll show you the other tips. You see these here. You can see on this side here you've got the hole. I'm going to try and just drill it actually, very carefully with this, because there's something on the end there, or just inside it there, that won't come out, and I haven't managed to unblock a single hole yet. It removed a bit of solder from there, as you can see, and pushed the pin through. So it's not like it actually even removed it actually. I think it just pushed the pin through, and that's it. You know, the suction's there. It's just the tip, the default tip that was already on there. Maybe I should have took it to pieces to start with to inspect, because maybe there's something in there that shouldn't be there, like a piece of protective, I don't know, packaging of some sort. You can still see that's still molten now. I'm able to wipe that tip down, so it's going to take a good 10 minutes or so to cool down. That's something that's preferential on the Weller actually, because on the Weller you can just use a special tool now and grab hold of the bit and remove the bit off the end, whereas with this now you've got to wait for it really to cool down to pull that whole thing off there in order to swap over the bit. So yeah, I am not eating it. It's just somewhere to store it for the moment. But as you can see, you know, the nozzle is going through into the glass chamber there, no problems at all. So the blockage is not there. It's definitely in the end of the tip there. Let's just feel how hot that is now. Is that still pretty hot actually, but I can just about touch that. So that bit goes in the middle there. That obviously can come off the end of here, and then the tip falls out like that. So yeah, this is the bit I need to drill, and it's handy because you can see the hole from that end, so it should be super easy just to get my very fine drill bit through this side to drill it out. But this is what you get if you buy cheap crap like this. Yeah, you can expect, oh, that's still pretty hot actually, you can expect to have to drill it out, Right, take two. I've got a different bit on there now. This bit, there's something in there, there's something solid in there. I've never even used it. This is the first time this was powered up. Unless someone's tested it before sending it to me and got something stuck in it, I don't know. But I don't think so, because you could tell, you know, the bit was unused. So I'm a bit peed off, to be honest. I've contacted the seller and said, look, I've gone away and ordered a couple of 0.8mm bits. I'm assuming that's what that one is. That's going to be the smallest one. It might not be. That might be the 1mm. I mean, you can see, I don't know, I'll put you on macro in a minute, you can see the size of the cavity there, but there's something in it. And obviously the hole on this side's a different size, so it's not like you can drill from this side to try and pilot it. It's and I've had the torch down there and the magnifier to see what I can see, and there's like a little bit of solder. So I don't know. I honestly, at this stage, I don't know what's wrong with that. What I might do is get this in a clamp, use hot air on it, and try and push from this side with something. I don't know, but that's really annoyed me actually. So let's wait for that to get up to temperature and we'll give that a try. Let's add a bit of solder, I think. Let's just not tempt fate here. So we've got some solder on the tip there. Let's just press the button. It's working. That's what I would have expected. Can you see that? We've got a hole there now. Well, I contacted the seller, as I say, and asked for either a partial refund or I've ordered some new tips. But I've also managed to unblock this actually, so yeah, I mean, I should really say I've unblocked it. But I'll be honest, it's peed me off that much. If he's willing to give me a £2.50 for the replacement tips I've just ordered, which I wouldn't have ordered had I been able to drill this out a minute ago. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. You can just see the light there. Can you see that? Yeah. I shouldn't have had to drill that, and actually, having drilled it, I may have damaged it a little bit, because you get a coating, you know, this could block super easy now, the fact of having drilled that. So actually, I think, yeah, he owes me a tip. Anyway, we'll reinstall this one now and give this a try again. One thing I will say is it takes ages to cool down. That is a noticeable difference with the Weller. It's obviously going to be to do with the metals they've used. The Weller, you know, it heats up quicker and it cools down a lot quicker. So, you know, literally the Weller, you can use the tool there to remove the tip, put the tip on a surface like that, leave it for approximately 30 to 60 seconds and it'll be stone cold. With this has been switched off for 6 or 7 minutes, and that is so hot you can't even touch it. All the metal bits are still super hot actually. So yeah, there's a difference there. Yeah, slide the whole lot over there like that and screw it on there. Now I wouldn't just do that finger tight. What I've been doing actually is just using the pliers here just to get a good grip and just give it a gentle turn like that. And that should be it. Yeah, just test it's nice and solid there as it should be. And we'll power that back up. So we'll wait for it to get to temperature again, and I'll have a go at desoldering a couple of small components off this MVS board here. It's a good test because the ground plane and stuff, you know, from removing the caps, and I'll show you, there's a little potentiometer on here for the volume on this MVS board, and they're super hard to get off. With my Weller, I couldn't do it. And now bear in mind, my Weller was not working optimally because the thermocouple wasn't great anyway. I don't think it was reaching the temperature it should have been at. But still, I really struggled. You've not seen those videos yet, but yeah, the bunch of MVS boards I've been looking at, one or two of the pots and things like I said, they've been absolutely near impossible to get off. They were really super hard. Hardest thing I've had to desolder in a long while. So we're at temperature there. Let's give that a try. So I'm going to focus on this cap here. Can you see one side of that is going to be connected to this massive ground rail here. So we may need to increase the temperature yet. I'm not sure. But we'll just see at 350. Let's just see how we get on. So we'll start with the one that's on the ground rail, I think. So let's just add some solder. Bearing in mind I'm using that smaller tip here, so yeah, you can see it's not passing the heat, so we're going to need to crank up the heat there, I think. Let's give it another go just in case. Yeah, it's removing the solder, but let's just increase the temperature a little bit. Let's put it up to 400, I think. 390, let's give that a go. Yeah, the solder's flowing a little bit easier there now. Yeah, it feels like it's moving, but you see, it's just not removing it. But this is quite an extensive test, in my opinion, actually. Oh, there you go, it's freed it up. There we go. My weller couldn't do that. But as I say, I think the weller was not optimal. It was not in tip-top condition. That side should be a bit easier. Yeah, that side's just come off super easy there. Yeah, I can see pretty much all the solder has been freed from that. I'm going to solder that back on because I don't want to remove that just now. But yeah, that's done the trick there. Now, as I mentioned, the thing that was super hard on these is, you can just about see it here if I just flip the board over. Can you see this potentiometer here? That was causing me no end of trouble on one or two of these boards. So let's just have a go with that. Let's get a bit of solder on there. Oh. This is the problem as well, though. As I mentioned, the weller is a bit easier to use. The legs just broke off. Did you see that? I can't believe that. Of all the things I wanted to test, I could have almost blocked it again with that. I'm assuming that's not bent over. I think that's actually broke off. Yeah, I think that's broke off, actually. That's a bit worrying. I can't believe that broke off that easy. Let's just try that one. And there is an argument to say that the tip size, yeah, I think the tip size is too big for this, but it is removing the solder. Let's just have a go at an angle. Yeah, it's removing the solder. Let's just try that one again. Move that bit out of the way. Let's get it into the thing here. Yeah, I don't want that bit of metal getting sucked up. Let's just see if we can remove the solder from there. Yeah, it's struggling again because it's on that same ground plane as the cap. But I suspect with a bit more, I could increase the temperature, I could leave it there for longer, and I would probably be able to unblock that. It would be easier if the pin was there, but the pin has just broke off. It's typical. Solder those back up. Let's have a go at something else. Let's try one of the socket connections here now. Bear in mind, these have not been cleaned up. I added a socket on here. This would have originally had a mask ROM. Unfortunately, I've not got any of these boards left with a mask ROM still on, because they're quite hard to desolder on these boards as well, actually. Now, also bear in mind, my temperature's a little bit higher than it should be. There you go. We're at 400 degrees at the moment. We really should be perhaps slightly less. I've joined some pins up there. But yeah, as you can see, that is working really well. It's a bit hard to use this way, but the solder is being removed there. So yeah, I would say it's not bad. It's not bad at all, actually. I think it's very good value for money. For 75 quid, you really cannot go wrong. Just bear in mind, quality is not super high, and I did have that problem, as you saw, with the bit that was installed as default. And now we've used it a bit, you can see exactly how it works. The spring in here is used to maybe hold the solder, the idea being that the solder maybe tries to stick to the spring and then cools down a lot quicker. But a lot of it, when you first start to use it, shoots back. Can you see here? Shoots back there, and it's collected right at the back. But that just shows you how good the suction is, that the solder is literally flying down there and hitting the back, actually, rather than being attracted to the spring. There's far less solder on the spring there than there is at the back here. So yeah, I think my impressions of this is pretty good, actually. I mean, it's marked there 24 volts, 80 watts. That's not bad, actually, if you believe that. If it is 80 watts, that's gives you quite a lot of capability there. And the temperature range, as we've seen, I'll show you. I don't know that I showed you. Yeah, the temperature range. Let's just see how far we can go. 480. That's more than enough. I think my weller would go up to 400, actually. Might be 450, I can't remember. I think it's 400, actually. 350 is probably a good temperature for most things, between 300 and 350. and if you've got big ground planes, you want to go between 400 and 450 generally. But yeah, I think that's pretty good actually. I'm impressed. So I do think I've done the right thing asking for a partial refund on the tip, because you'll see this is the smallest cleaning bit here, and it won't go in. You know, it won't go in. So even though I've drilled it, I've drilled like a really small hole, probably like, I don't know, 0.6 mil or something like that, and it's supposed to be 0.8 mil. So I've drilled through whatever contaminant was there, made it, I could widen it a bit, I might do that next, but the bit will not go in at all, you know, the cleaning bit here, this is the finest one. And the thing I would say with this is, it's crazy long. Hang on, door. Yeah, sorry about that, before I was saying as the door went, and actually that was the collection of the old Weller. I will miss the old girl actually. As I say, it's helped me repair thousands of things over the years, that it really has. You know, there's loads of stuff I've used it for, I've never shown on my channel. But yeah, that won't go in. But you know, this is the problem with a wire this length. If you try and do it like that, you can't get any meaningful force on it. See what I mean? You'd end up bending it. It's super hard to get it onto the tip to start with. It's really difficult, and you can see, you know, no matter how much I wiggle that around, I cannot get that to go in. Maybe it'll go in if I just keep at it, I don't know. No, it just feels like there's still a bit of a blockage there, but the hole is working, you know, it is sucking, and I have ordered a couple more of these tips anyway. Yeah, and you can obviously, you know, just clean it and something like that, clean the end off. So I think the one thing that lets it down in terms of quality for me is this. If this was like twice as thick, this metal here, and this thing was maybe sat on the floor rather than floating around with this here with a deeper tray, because look at that, it's just, it's not very, you know, it's pretty shallow. Look at that, look how thin that is, that's crazy. When you've got some water in there, that sponge is going to come right up, and then you're going to have bits of solder falling out everywhere. Maybe if you'd made it a wider tray or something with a higher edge around it. Doesn't need these rubber bits. What are these stupid rubber bits? It just doesn't need them at all. It's a bit bonkers. But yeah, that I think lets it down. And obviously, you know, the plastic could be better, but actually I think it's very, very good value for money. I'm very impressed. It's amazing how much, you know, things have come along over the years. You know, that Weller Desoldering Station there was well over 30 years old. And as I said at the start of the video, it would have cost quite a lot of money, actually, you know, sort of like £800,000-ish back in the day. So the fact that you can now buy something like this, and I think this, when I think back to when the Weller was in its youth, you know, when I used it when I was much younger, this is as good as, if not better, than the Weller. So the other thing I'm going to do here, you'll see that there's a big gap here. The white filter inside marries up, I think, with that plastic rim, but there's a cavity there. I'm going to fill that. Those are the new filters you get with it. You get 3 of the smaller ones for the you know, the cylinder there, the vacuum cylinder, and then 1 for the main part, you know, that mates with that, and obviously 2 spare tips. I think you get like a 1mm and a 1.2, and I think the 0.8 is the one that's fitted. So yeah, those are my spare nozzles from my different sizes for the Desolder hot air thing there. I've got the old the old bit there. I always keep them if they're still working, despite the crustiness of that. You never know, if the other tip breaks off, I could just temporarily put that one back on while I wait for replacement. And that one was for a different Antec iron. I think it's slightly larger. But anyway, I kept all the original Weller mineral wool packs I had. I've got 3 or 4 of these here. And this is what they use for the filter in the Weller. But what I can do is pull a bit of that out there, shove that into there like that, and we've got some additional filtering going on actually, which means that the main filter won't clog up anywhere near as quickly now with that. If I just screw that on there, I've switched that on, and I just press the button. See, still got suction. And as I say, when you compress this stuff, you can compress it into something like that. So I could actually use this as well as these, but I have ordered some of these as well. I think I've ordered 10, 2 packs of 5 of those, so I'll have a load of those spare as well. Elements for this, you can buy a replacement element for about £8 plus a bit of shipping. You know, and it costs you about 10, 11, 12 pounds, I think, shipped. So I might order a couple of elements as well. You never know, the pump might fail before the elements, but generally, you know, with something like this is the difference between quality again. You buy a Weller could give you, you know, a number of hours more than something like this. So, for example, a Weller element could last 2 or 3 times longer than an element in something like this. You know, it's all about the quality of the components and things. But, you know, it would be useful, if I'm going to keep this and use this for a period of time, it would be useful to get a couple of spare elements, I think. So I think the next thing we'll do here quickly is just work out how we empty it. So we pull that little thing there to free the back. And then this is the bit I'm not sure about. How does this come off here? Does it just lift up on one side? I don't know, I need to be careful. There's nothing else to pull. Does that pull further back maybe? Or does it just lift up? I don't know. I did look at the manual and it was quite vague, to be fair. It didn't really show you the process. Does that come back any further? Doesn't, does it? This is the point where I probably break it. Yeah, excuse me while I wrestle with this for a few minutes, try and work out how it comes apart. Yeah, there we go. It is just a case of sort of mangling it around, you know, twisting it different ways. You can see a bit of solder's dried. You can see a bit of solder's dried there actually as it's cooled down. But obviously, you know, as it heats up again, that would unblock. So I'll just put that there a sec. So there's the filter. So you can see already, just from that tiny bit of soldering, can you see it's kind of gone a bit yellowish? So yeah, they're not going to last long. They're super thin. And then you've got this black thing that sits over there, and then your spring. Let's just try and not get solder everywhere here. Does the spring pull off? I'm not sure. Anyway, you could just tap it like that. Be careful because the glass tube may break. Interestingly, those glass tubes look almost the same size as the one for the Weller actually. Maybe it's a bit shorter, the Weller one. I don't know, but you know, you'd need to break off all the bits of solder that are stuck onto the spring there like that. And obviously you can clean it out with some kitchen roll and some IPA or something to get all those bits out there. I'm guessing this side, yeah, just comes off like that, so you could clean the spring up that way. You know, you could use a paper towel or something to get all this off, or a wire brush or something. Anyway, I'm not going to spend ages cleaning that up. I'm just going to show you the process really. Obviously you want to make sure you've not got bits of solder there. I imagine this rubber bung here wearing actually. It might even be that kind of biodegradable stuff that after 2 or 3 years just starts to crumble. So it might be worthwhile getting some of those. I'll see if I can buy some spares of those. And that just plugs back in there to give you a sort of airtight seal. Clean that up a bit, get those bits of solder off there. But that can't have sat over there like that, otherwise you'd get no airflow. If it was the metal part was face down, then you're not going to have any airflow. So yeah, the filter side faces that. Bits of solder everywhere there. Yeah, not the easiest thing to clean, not compared to the Weller. The Weller was a little bit more exposed and stuff, where you could clean it properly. Nevertheless, yeah, so I think your filter goes like that, and that goes over there. It's super annoying that this doesn't move further back. Maybe I'm just not using it right. Yeah, it was quite fiddly to get that back in. I found that if you push the filter side in first and then push the black part, it clips in. So yeah, that's in place. You've got to sort of rotate it a bit. Just make sure your filter is as flat on that black thing at the back there where the vacuum's formed, obviously. And then just push it forward like that. And I think that should be it. Let's just power it back on again. Yeah, there we go. So it's all connected back up again. We'll just let it reach temperature. I'll just make sure it's still working. Yeah, so we'll just try following a bit of solder there like that, and then just desolder it. Yeah, you can see that's done a superb job there, so it's working fine. Yeah, I suspect the ground and the VCC are going to need some more temperature actually. Oh, this is super hard to do at this distance. I prefer the weller because I can't even get onto the top of it. You know, you've got such a distance away from the thing. Well, here you go. This can go into the review. It just shows you how junky this thing really is. Can you see there? Can you see the solder? The solder, and it's about that length inside the thing there. So I've had to obviously, I can't get the thing in. I've had to disassemble this to this point here. But you can see, you know, the unblock tool, it's hardly going in at all. There's just a solid lump of solder there, and that is just not going to melt at all. So this is a huge problem. And this is literally the first time I've used it. I used it to solder that one pin before, and I've tried removing the chip from here to solder 4 connections, and here we are now, stuck, struggling to unblock the thing. I am not impressed. I'm not impressed at all. I don't know how to do this. The only thing I can think is to unscrew the 3 screws, remove the element, and somehow deal with it that way. Well, do you know what I had to do? I had to shove this in here like this, and then hold it down onto the thing here. You know, so that's shoved. You know, that metal rod was shoved in the end there. Push it down with pressure, and touch that with the soldering iron there. You know, under the soldering iron. And after about 30 seconds, it gradually melted, and the thing pushed all the way through. So, you know, maybe there was some slag left in there from the bits. You know, we had that dodgy bit right at the start of this video here. Because if you just look at that there, there's a funny dark colour in the middle of that, like there's some contaminant or something. So maybe it was whatever was blocking that bit. That could be why it blocked there. But yeah, I don't really hold high hopes. Anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting. So, a chip later, and it's blocked up again. And lo and behold, we've got solder there. Maybe I had too much filtering going on here, so I'm just going to just go with that to see if that makes any difference at all. You know, it's crazy. It really is. This is a piece of shit. So I'm going to have to do the same thing. I might not be able to capture this very well, but it's a case of I'm going to have to sort of press that, get my other iron over here, touch the, you can't see it, I'm touching that blob of solder on the neck of the thing here. There we go, it's come through, I'll show you. Can you see that? The solder's still there, look. There you go, it's come off. Yeah, I'm missing the weller already, actually. So the other thing I'm going to do here is change to one of the new 0.8mm tips, because whilst I drilled the end of that out, you know, it was solid when I got it and it wouldn't unblock. None of the cleaning tools will fit in it. It's obviously still too small. I could drill it out further, but I'll do that later. But as I say, we'll give it, let's just make sure it's not too hot yet. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt and we'll put a new tip in, and hopefully this one will unblock. So yeah, I need to reassemble this now. Yeah, this is still super hot actually. I might burn myself if I'm not careful with this. But you know, that should not be, you know, solder should not stick to that. The only thing I can think is it's the filter and the size of the hole in the tip. So yeah, let's try with this original filter here. Let it heat up. We need to obviously unblock the new tip. That should hopefully clear as soon as it reaches temperature. And I'll re-drill that. I'll drill that the same size as the cleaning tool, just to make sure that that's not the issue. So yeah, let's just press it. There we go. So it's unblocked again. Let's just see. I'm just curious to see, does the smallest bit fit this tip size? Hang on. Yes, it does. So that's good news. It doesn't look 0.8mm to me. That looks more like 1mm. It's giant. So what I would say is, after you've desoldered a bunch of pins, like I've just done several pins there, use the unblock tool, and it stuck again just a little bit, and then it freed it up. So it would have blocked again. So you've got to be using this, you know, the tool here every, I don't know, 12 or so pins, just to make sure it doesn't block inside there. Now I could be unlucky, maybe I've got a defect in the metal part that goes in there that's attracting solder or something, I don't know, but nevertheless I've got to point it out. So I'll admit, since I removed that piece out of the thing and unblocked it, it's not blocked again. So I can't help but feel like it's something to do with the vacuum. You know, if your vacuum's not totally straight. The other thing you'll note here is when soldering straight downwards, if you solder just at a very slight angle, that's when it blocks. But these things are prone to blocking, and you've seen where the solder sticks next to that black piece. But yeah, here's a sort of real world example. I need to take this chip off here. You can see it's doing a superb job there actually. I am very impressed. The power is fantastic. You know, the actual thermal power. With my Weller, it had aged a fair bit, I think. Let's say I'm not sure if it needed a new element or whatever. But this is doing a wonderful job here, actually. So what I'd probably do at this point is, just because I'm a bit paranoid because it has been jamming a lot, is, hang on, if I can push that in, just get that in. See, it's jammed, see that? There you go, it's freed it. This is the thing, so it is super susceptible to jamming. You've got to, after every, on my case with this, after every 5 or 6 pins, I would be a fool to not clear it. Because, just that 1 or 2 pins more, it'll be blocked again. And that point you can't unblock it with the that tool there. You've got to take it all to pieces and use a second iron there to heat the the solder plug at the end. Uh-oh, it's blocked, I think. Yeah, can you see that? It's blocked again. There you go, unblocked it. Wow, yeah. Super easy to block this. There is another element there that suggests, or another point that suggests that the longer you leave this to warm up, it's quite cold here at this time of day. It's only been warming up for 5 minutes, after it got to temperature, maybe a minute after temperature, then I've started to solder. The back end here might not have got as hot, as it needs to be. So if I left this on for maybe 10 minutes before I start to use it, it might not be as susceptible to blocking. But, this thing, it works really well. It's just the fact that I've had some blockages that have not been expected, really. You wouldn't expect. Let's just continue with a few more pins here and then just see what's going on with it. In fact, let's say I'm playing on the side of caution here. Let's just check it again. Seems alright. Now, believe it or not, I used this to remove the YM2610 here yesterday. It did block a couple of times, but I was able to just do it with the tool, that cleaning rod there. It works okay. Yeah, it felt like there's a little bit of solder blocking inside the tip there, actually. There we go, that's not too bad. So we'll have a go at removing that small dip chip there. I've removed a number of slightly larger chips and things, and it's been alright actually ever since I changed the tip and removed that little metal thing that was on the back of the thing there. It seems to have been a lot more reliable. Yeah, it's making light work of that. As time has gone on, I've become more impressed with this. And it's not getting blocked now. One thing I would say is the size of the tip means that it's easy to reintroduce solder to nearby pins. 2 more to go. There we go. So with a gentle pivot on each of the pins there, they've pretty much all snapped off, I think. So hopefully you can see that. That's coming straight up, actually. Yeah, I'm very impressed. It's brought that chip out super easy there. No damage to the PCB. Fantastic. So the final thing I'll point out, I've been using this a fair bit actually on some of the TTL chips on a 6 slot Neo Geo, and it's been super easy removing chips and sockets. I haven't had any more of the blockages I had for the first few hours of use. All that actually seemed to stop when I removed that bit of black metal. I'll see if I can show you here. But obviously that's protecting the filter, you know, so you can see the filter's accumulated a lot of stuff on there that perhaps would have been blocked by that. And obviously the filter's, you know, it's pretty dirty. You can see that needs replacing already. So would that have needed replacing at this point? I don't know. I mean, you can see how much solder that's collected. That's all I've done. That's the only amount of desoldering I've done since I got this with a new filter. So the filters don't last very long. I think what I'm going to do is use some of the mineral wool as a filter, actually, that I used with the Weller. And you can see, because I've not got that there, it seems to have blocked with one big clump on one side. So that's probably where that comes in useful. I mean, it still had suction, because on the end of that was the filter. So it would have still had some suction there from the sides. The main thing is it hasn't blocked again. There's just once or twice where every now and again, you know, I've probed it with the cleaning tool and I could just feel something dislodge, like there was just the smallest bit of solder just starting to, you know, accumulate there. So it's not 100%, but actually it's very good. I think in terms of value for money, I'm pretty impressed actually. I'm pretty impressed. I will miss the Weller. I've heard from the person who bought it and he's got it working. It was the Elements, surprisingly, which makes sense actually. You think about it, a piece of wire with ceramic around it, that's going to be an element, that's not going to be a thermal switch. But that's what I thought was wrong with it at the time, and it was yeah, just my lack of experience of going inside them really to service them. I wasn't really sure what was what, but I couldn't have got a new element anyway. I searched online for new elements and things. So you can see there, I've used some of the mineral wool in, you know, with the filter, the old filter, the dirty one behind it. So yeah, we've got some additional filtering, and I've still left the mineral wool in the end of the cap there. You know, there's a little cavity at the end of the cap, and that works fine. It's just a bit of additional filtering, because I've got loads of that mineral wool left from when I had the Weller there. It's quite cheap to buy it, and it's easy to use for things like this. So yeah, so overall, excellent value for money, but yeah, you might expect some teething problems like I had to start with until you've sort of, you know, bedded it in kind of thing. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.